Hello, thanks for joining me for the winning personal video horoscope for January's free prize draw. Now, whether you were aware of this or you've stumbled across this video, just to say that if you subscribe, comment or favourite, you'll be entered automatically into all the free draws we have. Doesn't matter if you've entered before, you'll be considered again. And you won't have seen me wearing glasses before. I apologise for that if that's a change. But I've just literally printed the birth chart wheel off, and because I've just had the details confirmed, and I'm going to just look at it quite naturally. I will have to look down at times to look at the wheel, and I'm just going to engage with the winner, Miss Dunnable, and this is her time, and it can be your time if you are lucky enough to win in the future. So here goes, without any further ado. The first thing that we can notice is this person is born a Gemini, and the date of birth is the 3rd of June 1969. Now, at the time of birth, it meant that the ascendant is actually in Sagittarius, the opposite side of the horoscope. There's not an actual opposition between the sun and the ascendant. The orb, the stretch between them, is quite long. It's about 10 degrees. I suppose you could argue that it's at the very periphery of an opposition. With an opposition, you can get a situation where people have to go over the same ground to convince people who they really are, because sometimes they get the wrong end of the stick. But what I would say here, so we've got the bright and breezy Gemini energy, but also at the time of birth, Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, was also in Gemini, and it was 9 degrees away from the sun. So that is closer to being what's known as a conjunction and can be positive. It's probably more potent if it's within 1 or 2 degrees. If it's exact, it's known as combust, and that gives people potentially a trait of genius. But certainly having Mercury in its home zone of Gemini or Virgo is a very positive thing, because it's comfortable here, it's at ease with communication. So that's interesting. We also see that the moon is in Aquarius, in 2 degrees Aquarius. And so we have a sort of nice angle there between the moon and also Mercury. So there's a trine. So there's a balance between emotional information and the way of communicating that information. But of course, they're all in air. So this is a person who is quite bright and breezy, a bubbly character who's inquisitive, and but there is some definition that's coming through for me straight away, and this is coming from the house system, both the Sun and Mercury in the 7th house. So this is a person quite focused on the way they interact with other people. However, the moon is something different. It's in the 2nd house, so security is going to be more important than you might think. This is a person with appreciation of good food, good wine, and knowing where they stand over finance. Now, with relationships being a key issue for many of us these days, this person also has Venus, the planet which is to do with relating, in Aries, and it's said that when women have Venus in the natal horoscope in Aries, they can often be hunter-gatherers when it comes to trapping down their prey. I say this with a little bit of a sense of humour, but certainly more assertive about reaching out for what they want. But what characterises the location of Venus in this horoscope makes it a little bit different, is it's actually very late in Aries, and because of that, it's then linking in with Saturn, which is in the next sign in Taurus. And the issue here, therefore, is because the Saturn is very, very early in Taurus, there is what's known as a dissociate conjunction. The issue here, therefore, is that this person could be a little bit more refrained, even though Venus is in the 5th house, which is like love central. It's really creative, it's bubbly, real potential for having children. But then we've got Saturn, which is also in the 5th house, can also make us feel quite inhibited and worried that it's ever going to work out for us as far as love is concerned. What I would say to reassure people with a conjunction between Venus and Saturn is it just makes you very serious about the matter of love. And yet on the face of it, this person is someone who might seem to be very skilled at communication, reaches out, good at listening, good at interacting with people, but there's another side of this person that actually needs security at a much deeper level than it may appear to even people who know them very well. Now, this issue with Saturn in Taurus is also interesting because it squares up to the moon, which is in Aquarius. Now, this is not so good. I think that what we've got here is a situation where it could be that this person can be attracted to people who perhaps are not necessarily good for them. It's important to understand our base values. It might be very, very old-fashioned, but it probably is a major factor in basic compatibility if it is possible to find someone who doesn't necessarily have the same views as us, but certainly has similar instincts. And I think what you can get when you get a square between the 5th and the 2nd house, between the moon and Saturn, is a sense of almost pessimism at times that this person will ever find the person that they feel that they're worthy of. So it's going to be important to keep your spirits up, to be positive, and to realise that in some ways this is just reminding you not to compromise too much on your values. If you meet someone and there's something glaring there that doesn't feel quite right, then respect that, because there is a tendency with 7th house stuff at the heart of a horoscope to almost reach out and be too much of a people pleaser. So you need to step back from that a little bit, quite honestly. Now, Jupiter happens to be in Virgo. Now, it's also in the 10th house and it's conjunct Uranus. Now, this is a generational thing because obviously this occurred for quite a few people all at the same time. So the house system is actually the key here. And it points towards someone, for me, who's quite innovative, quite open to new ideas, learning, probably someone who could even be attracted to lifetime learning. And on the other hand, with Uranus there could almost be a little bit of a rebellionism. There's a desire to be stimulated all the time. If you're not getting that in your work, there could be a sense of disappointment. But having this 10th house stuff there and the moon in the 2nd house suggests to me that this is a person who essentially needs a certain degree of comforts and security, physical and material. Now, Mars, which is the go-getter of the zodiac, is in a tremendous part of this horoscope, suggesting real sporting prowess. I don't know this, I don't know anything about this person at all, but if you love running or walking or hiking, or you ever threw the javelin or discus at school, or you were a high jumper or whatever, it really wouldn't be a surprise. You're generally going to be quite a fit person, and you need to be going out and burning that energy off. If you're too sedentary, it won't be good for you, quite frankly. So keep on the move. As we work towards the outer limits of the horoscope and the outer planets, the one that really is very important for me anyway is Pluto. Pluto is in the 9th house and suggests that there is a yearning for knowledge, really, which is never really going to go away all through your life. Feeling that you can add to your skill set is one way. I mentioned that before, that you could be attracted to lifetime learning in another way. But this to me is something that is just very, very potent. And you may have a sort of deep yearning in a way to travel a little bit and to not be too rooted. But this is in contrast to that other side of you that does desperately need quite a lot of formal security in your life. Now, we also have Neptune, which is in Scorpio. That's okay. Again, it's a very slow-moving planet. The issue here is that it's in the 12th house, so there could be a tendency at times to be a little bit anxious, to feel that that maybe people aren't always up front with you. You'd be very sensitive to the reactions that you get from other people, quite tuned into that. Especially for a Gemini, you're going to have quite an antenna there, and you probably need quite a lot of reassurance to feel secure in relationships, and without it, there could be a sense of insecurity that can come up from time to time. What you've got to say to yourself whenever this happens is just remind yourself of the need to be factual. Don't let your anxieties run away with you. So what is the picture that we find for this year particularly? Well, I do feel that once the solar eclipse occurs on the 20th of May, I think that's going to be absolutely brilliant for you. And I think that it's going to see you garner a lot more confidence and a lot more drive. And also, once Jupiter moves into Gemini in June, I think it's about the 10th, that is also going to be a major driver. It's going to give you a massive boost of confidence, and it's really going to pep you up a lot. Because you have this 7th house energy, the way you relate to people is really a furnace at the bottom of your soul, if you like. It's never going to go away, even if you find that key relationship. Reaching out and connecting well with people would just be part and parcel of you. But I do feel that you're going to be given a much more evocative vibe out, and that's going to draw some really good things for you from the early part of the Northern Hemisphere summer for the rest of the year, because both Jupiter and the solar eclipse are going to be really bringing lots of positive energy for the rest of 2012. So that's very, very important. Now, we also have, at the moment, a situation where Jupiter is actually hovering around your Saturn. It's not exactly there, but it's quite close, just a few degrees away. And I do feel that this can be very good for you in terms of giving you a bit more confidence when it comes to believing that your talents will be recognised. So that can be good for work. But the really transformational part of that is the fact that Pluto, the current transit in Pluto, is also forging a great link with your natal Saturn. And I think it has been for the last couple of years. So I would say work-wise, you are making progress, and it's probable that people are recognising your talents. Now, in terms of Jupiter, which in your natal horoscope is actually in Virgo, that's almost a contradiction in a little way, because there's part of you that perhaps resents almost having to work really hard, but then there's another part of you that just knuckles down and does it quite naturally. I do feel that you are going to be feeling a little bit more liberated about that work. I feel that the energy that's bogging you down at the moment is going to start to lift. And really, you can look forward to a much more positive second half of the year. Your ascendant, by the way, is also in Sagittarius. Now, the interesting thing with this is it's very, very close to your Mars. And one of the things that you must try to avoid doing at all times is jump into massive conclusions about anything. Because when Mars and the Ascendant are very close together, there can be an enormous sort of enthusiasm and drive when they're in Sagittarius, but also a kind of like quick fire way of processing information, and almost sort of being almost too quick to move on to the next exciting and fascinating adventure when things don't work out. So do take the time to absorb emotional issues that are going on with you. Let them just filter down inside. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you might actually find that you absorb quite a lot of old stuff that doesn't ever really get fully sorted out. But certainly, I would say that this ascendant conjunct Mars in Sagittarius is going to make you quite a dynamic and at times rather impatient person, but probably great fun to be around. You're very direct. People pretty well know where they stand with you. But I think that is more superficial. I think underneath that there are deeper elements of your personality which are much more to do with needing that security and needing to perhaps be more formal than you may let on. You may come across as being very much a free spirit, but underneath that is a more conservative heartbeat. Now, the other thing that just comes up for me is that your midheaven, which is to do with your work, also sits very close to Pluto, and it also sits very close to Uranus. The suggestion for me here, really, to be frank, is that career attainment is always going to be something that's there. So there could be a little bit of conflict between the need to be a completely free spirit, go off and do your own thing, and another side of you that wants to be totally committed to the cause. So that could be a feature of your personality. So it's been an absolute pleasure being with you. I hope this has been very, very helpful to you. It will be now put into a formal package and go on the website for everyone to view. And as I said, for anyone else watching this, please know that you will be considered. Everyone will be completely considered for all future prize draws. And thank you very much. And goodbye for now.